as well as building critical thinking principles into curricula and assessments related to a digital literacy education. Over time, my interest in applying critical thinking principles more broadly led to development of Critical Voter, a curriculum and set of related teacher resources that used the 2012 presidential election to teach many of the critical thinking skills described in this book, such as logic, argumentation, language skills, including persuasive communication, and controlling for biases. Before releasing Critical Voter to wider audiences, its precepts were tested through prototype lessons taught to my own children, one of whom will have started college by the time this manuscript is completed. My son being in college might not necessarily be good news, critical thinking-wise. According to Richard Aram and Josipa Roksa in their popular 2011 book, Academically Adrift, gains in critical thinking, complex reasoning, and writing skills, i.e. general collegiate skills, during the first 2 years of college are either exceedingly small or empirically non-existent for a large proportion of students. This despite the fact that, per a report cited by the authors, 99% of college faculty say that developing students' ability to think critically is a very important or essential goal of undergraduate education. The impact of Academically Adrift on discussions and debates about higher education, in both the academic and popular press, demonstrated general acceptance that a world without critical thinking skills is a world to be feared. But why might this be so? Built into the conversation about critical thinking taking place in the academy and among the wider public is an assumption that knowledge alone cannot help us solve the problems we face as individuals and as a society. In the last few decades, we have seen rapid acceleration in the creation of new knowledge, coupled with unparalleled access to information through digital devices that are our constant companions. Yet errors in judgment continue to plague us at the individual and societal levels. Worse, our inability to evaluate the information contained in our myriad pocket libraries of Alexandria, in terms of its veracity and credibility, means we are just as likely to believe false information and draw incorrect conclusions from such facts, some of them fed to us by those who understand the flaws in human reasoning well enough to manipulate us. Some commentary on the 2016 U.S. election concluded that many Americans make decisions based on emotion rather than reason, implying that the public's ability to think critically does not exist or is easily short-circuited. But one need not look to national politics to see problems associated with lack of critical thinking. How many impulsive purchases, bad career choices, needless arguments with loved ones, and other personal problems might be avoided if we could train our minds to locate and evaluate evidence, place it into a structure for analysis, and base our choices on rules that have informed sound judgment since the days of Socrates and Aristotle. Since controlling for bias is an important critical thinking skill, one discussed throughout this book, I should share up front a conviction that has fueled my years of work in this field, that the most important critical thinking issue facing the world today is that not enough people are doing enough of it, which explains this book's emphasis on how critical thinking can be taught, practiced, and evaluated. Teaching ourselves and others to become critical thinkers requires a grounding in core principles. So to guide listeners through what this book covers, Chapter 1, The Genealogy of Critical Thinking, explains the origins of the term in the context of the disciplines critical thinking draws upon, such as philosophy, psychology, and science. This chapter introduces early definitions for critical thinking, definitional issues being a subject that comes up frequently in discussions of the topic. My contribution to that discussion is not to lobby for my own preferred definition, but to instead help listeners better understand the concept by introducing them to critical thinking's fascinating origins. Chapter 2, Components of Critical Thinking, looks at the knowledge, skills, and personal dispositions required to be a critical thinker. Despite widely varying content choices and practices by critical thinking educators, this chapter proposes that there is a